Every year we try to recognize prominent people in the community, people in different professions, people who excel in their either profession or chosen endeavor.
Last year I got an award, and I talked to a friend of mine who was a lawyer who had told me I didn't deserve the award. So I'm always mentally thinking about, as a developer, why, getting an award is pretty unusual because people look at us as wrecking the skyline and, creating all kinds of havoc and inconvenience.
We want to have a balance and mix. So that's why we recognize a person like Charlie Rangel, who's been a congressman since 1971 and has done quite a lot. And in Harlem, he was instrumental in pushing for the empowerment zone to try to get access to create businesses in Harlem when it was very, very depressed. It wasn't the Harlem that you see today. And then, of course, with the African continent, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, to provide some level of duty-free access for African exports to the U.S.
Some of you have heard about what a dog whistle is. It's a whistle that human beings can't hear, but dogs can because of the frequency which is blown. And Donald Trump understands how those whistles work. And he recognizes the depth of racism and hatred that we have in this country. And this appeal that he's making, remarkable thing, it's not what he's saying. It's the silence of the people that are around him know exactly what he's talking about.
We have a STEM educator, science, technology, engineering, and math, because that's very critical for our young folks in this century. So Natasha Green is one of the honorees. She's going to talk a little bit about why that's very important.
It starts with the questions you ask. And when you start asking questions of why is the air in the Bronx a certain way? Why are my kids having asthma? Why do schools have lead? And when you start looking at the data, now these questions could be answered, and now you will be that solution to rectify the situation. So
America's very conflicted about whether or not black folks can learn. America is very conflicted about whether or not we can perform at levels that require sets of skills that are intricate and complicated and deeper analysis is required. We live in a time in which, frankly, there are black folks who are very conflicted about that.
How different would your life have been if you had received financial education as a child?
Finally, the United Nations is saying that they know the importance of our struggle for justice and is recognizing the injustices that have been done against our people internationally. So this is a global fight. I always tell people that the fight against racism, the fight against anti-black racism is a global fight. It's not just a U.S. fight, and if you don't understand that, then you miss so much.
Let us remember that the struggle continues. Black lives still matters, will always matter, and if we have to be in the streets, then so be it. God bless you.
I never thought in my lifetime that I would be here in a room full of so many living legends and icons.
Stephen and I, as you may have heard this story, are the only African-American producers on Broadway. Or I should say lead producers, which, there's a distinction between the people that invest in Broadway shows and the people that produce.
A man who became mayor and a man who wanted to become president of the United States also actually joined a mob of so-called officers. How do police officers act like that? That had besieged City Hall when the mayor was actually inside the office, hurling racial epithet, very ugly. And many of them were drunk, right? And who's to say some of the buddies might not have allowed them to charge inside, City Hall and harm the mayor.
The next generation, we owe them the opportunity to achieve their potential. We owe them that. And of course we want them to bring it, we want them to work and whatnot, but we should see to it that each generation does better than the one before. And so we need to work at that.
We have the brothers from the Central Park 5 case. These young men who were arrested, vilified, demonized by media, and convicted for a crime they did not commit, and served long sentences. Finally, they were exonerated when the true rapist stepped forward.
If it had not been for Mr. Reyes, I'll still be doing a very long 5 to 15. Because of Governor Pataki at that time. At the same time, parole board. Little Korey had died a long time ago. Thanks to Mr. Donald Trump. Now that I know. But good luck on the race, Bob. You don't got my vote.
Back then, so many media was against us. So much negativity, so much hate and anger. But thankful to Black media.
Yeah. All right now.
Because they were the ones that was out there. And it wasn't for that unity, because it's not only, you know, the boys went through a lot and the families, but we needed the people. Yeah. We couldn't do it alone. Yeah. And this, never give up. Yeah. You know, the boys now, they speak to children and they go out and they speak to other youth and they tell them never give up. You can do whatever you want in life. And they speak about injustice. We suffered a lot of injustice. The boys in prison and the families with hate by the community, by the media. Korey mentioned Donald Trump. And now we look at him, how he's running for president and he's still declaring hate and speaking negativity and putting our children down. And how he said he wanted death penalty for our children. But no, we declare life over our children.
When we see things in the paper, when we see it on the news, we believe. And one of the worst things that happened in 1989 and in 1990 was that there was this tsunami of media. There was over 400 articles being written within the first few months of this case happening. And those articles gave way to that hate that has been spoken about Donald Trump. You know, when you look at the actual ad, well, first of all, let me just back up a second. Donald Trump, in that particular arena, was a common citizen who was affected by the media so that he decided to take his money to pay to effectuate change. And he paid for ad space, calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty, specifically for our cases. That gave birth to other hate that presented itself in the media. One in particular was a guy named Pat Buchanan. And Pat Buchanan wrote in the papers that if we take the eldest one, Korey Wise, and we hang him from a tree in Central Park, and we take the others and we horsewhip them, maybe the city's park will be safe again.
When they stole the child of the slave mother and sold it down the river, that was me. I felt her pain because I lived it. And this was my child they stole. And I want justice for him and for me and for my children. I still live this shame and humiliation. It hasn't moved on in my body. I keep talking about it and I move it around so I can shake it loose, and they all say, well, forgive, forgive, and I say forgive too. And one day I'm gonna wake up in true forgiveness. But right now, as I said earlier, I wake up saying, did I take my medication?
A man who needs no introduction to the stage, Imhotep Gary Byrd. We all know him. He's a broadcasting legend. He's been on the air since the age of 15.
So above the noise and the static and clatter we have come to see, the black press matters. So though he has honored us tonight, we have to salute one of the true soldiers' struggle and the team he put together to fight and rewrite the wrongs. Brother Milton Alimadi, thank you for paying your